why does America keep getting compared to Rome? And lately, not in a good way. Now, usually it's a warning about how America could suffer the same fate as the Roman Republic, but few people actually understand all the specifics on why it collapsed. Well, one guy not only understood it, but he actually predicted it more than a generation before Caesar was even born. Over 2,000 years ago, the Greek historian Polybius laid out a theory of politics called anacyclosis, or cycle of constitutions. His idea was that every form of government, no matter how noble, eventually decays into, and this is important, its evil twin. And what's so incredible about this theory is that we can still apply it today and potentially use it to save our own country from the inevitable collapse that seems to have engulfed every other government out there. Here's how it works. The first phase of government generally starts off with what Polybius describes as the rule of one. And the positive manifestation of this, in Polybius's view, is the monarchy, the kings that are just and virtuous and competent, but who over time can become corrupt and self-serving and go from being kings to the evil twin of a tyrant. People get tired of the tyranny, and so eventually they're overthrown. But what replaces them? Well, in this phase, it's the rule of a few, or the positive manifestation of this being aristocracy, a class of experienced and noble statesmen who put their skills to use running the government on behalf of the people. But eventually they become self-interested and corrupt too. The aristocracy turns into its evil twin, oligarchy, where elites use the system to enrich themselves and shut everyone else out. Just like before, this leads to a revolution. The people rise up and establish the rule of the many, or democracy. And at first, it seems like the days of tyrants and oligarchs are finally over. But just like the last two systems of government, democracy also has an evil twin which degenerates into mob rule. Elections turn into little more than a contest on who's better at looting the public treasury in order to buy votes. Demagogues manipulate the public, and instead of one tyrant, now you just got thousands of them. And at that point, guess what happens next? The people get fed up with the chaos and begin looking for someone, anybody, somebody noble and strong and competent to take charge and fix the problems. You know, like a strong man. And the cycle begins again. Now, if any of this sounds familiar, it probably should, because a generation after Polybius came up with his theory, Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon and the Roman Republic gave way to the Roman Empire under his nephew Octavian. But if Polybius is right, then it sort of begs the question, how has America avoided this fate for over 2 centuries? Well, our founding fathers were very familiar with Polybius's work, and they took him extremely seriously. In fact, they designed the Constitution of the United States specifically to attempt to break the cycle he outlined. They did everything they could to ensure that America would have no tyrants, no oligarchs, and no mob rule. Instead, they built a mixed system balancing power between the positive manifestations of monarchy, aristocracy, and democracy. Today, we can find these things in the president, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. This is why James Madison famously said that in politics, ambition must be made to counteract ambition. However, it's also when Ben Franklin was asked, "What sort of government have you given us?" he replied with, "A republic, if you can keep it." And for a long time, we have kept it. But while the American system is unique, it is not indestructible. It only works if people continue to believe in it and are willing to fight to defend it. Part of that fight includes making sure that future generations understand that while the United States has been given a system which is incredibly strong, very resilient, and has thus far stood the test of time, we are not immune to the same degeneracy that we have seen in republics and monarchies and aristocracies that have taken place all throughout human history. So if we want to be different, we have to continue to learn these lessons, not just for ourselves, but to pass it on to future generations so that they can also avoid the turmoil that has plagued so many countries before us.